Welcome into Wager Talk's last call. I'm Meghan Payton. A fun Thursday ahead. Lots to talk about. March Madness is over. The madness finally came to an end. NBA regular season is wrapping up. Let's get ready for the playoffs. We're getting closer to the NHL playoffs. We'll have Andrew here to break that down. MLB is back and the NFL draft is coming up. So I'm already getting some futures bets on that. If you're new to Wager Talk's last call, it's very simple here. The show is all about you. We really thrive off of the YouTube live comments. So head over right now. We're going to have three amazing handicappers joining us here today. You are free to ask them whatever you'd like. Get the questions rolling. I'll just simply navigate the questions, but you run the show. We're going to have Andrew McInnis on. We're going to have Tony Finn, Adam Trigger. Lots to talk about in the world of sports. Let's bring Andrew on now to talk some NHL. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us here at Last Call. You are on a 10-2 start to MLB. You have an NHL playoff package up. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on at WagerTalk.com. I think we're
My
muted.
apologies. Wouldn't be a show without a little bit of errors to start things off. Do you have me now, Megan? We're okay?
I got you. We're good.
All right. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that MLB is back. But of course, the NHL playoffs are approaching. Every single handicapper right now at WagerTalk has an NHL playoff package up. But I've teamed up with my co-host on Puck Time, Carmine Bianca. We have a BOGO special going right now, and if you buy that, you'll get both of us for the playoffs, but also the rest of the regular season for free. So I really recommend that package. Of course, as you know, when the season winds down, some games matter, some don't. Certain bet on situations that are definitely available to cash in on. And MLB, I recommend 30-day pass, 7-day pass. Get a little sample size of how I bet and find out if I'm your guy.
Andrew, we have a couple NHL games that we're going to break down tonight. But before we get into your specific games, just your overall process and thought to those that are wanting to bet a little bit as we get closer to playoffs. How do you approach betting in the postseason for NHL?
Well, just for everybody, I mean, you need to know the standings. You need to know who is sitting in what position and who is battling for a certain position in the playoffs. We'll take the Tampa Bay Lightning and Toronto Maple Leafs as an example here. Both those teams already know where they're going to fit in the playoffs. They already know if they have home ice or if they do not. It's all about being healthy, going into the playoffs on a good note, establishing that chemistry and getting into the playoff mindset. Some teams are fighting for certain positions, though, to win their division, to squeak into that final wild card spot. And some teams, Megan, as I like to say, they're playing for exercise. So I look for a lot more unders when I'm looking at games that really matter and overs for games that don't matter as much for these teams that are at the bottom of their standing. So scoring has been up in a big way this year in the NHL, but you're seeing these totals go a lot lower right now. We had a total of 7 that finished with a scoreline of 2-1 2 days ago. And that just goes to show that really the defensive effort is really picking up.
I like your mindset for those that are just exercising. I wish I was cool enough to have hockey as my after work exercise routine. All right, let's break down some games we've got going on tonight. Minnesota Wild at Pittsburgh Penguins. Puck drop at 7:05 Eastern. Penguins are minus 132 on the money line, and the total's at 6.5. Minnesota suffered back-to-back losses against Vegas earlier this week. Pittsburgh with a humbling loss to the Devils 5-1. How are we approaching this one out there in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that was certainly humbling for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're a team that has just struggled defensively this year. Also, their goaltending has been so up and down. I saw something out there in the stats world that really threw me off. It pretty much said that if the Pittsburgh Penguins had any other goaltending tandem in the entire league, they would be in a for sure playoff spot. Their goaltenders have let them down. Their defensemen have let them down. But Megan, their offense isn't that bad. I mean, they're scoring goals. They've got 2 lines that produce consistently. Brian Rust, Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby. Everyone knows who that guy is. This is a team that when I'm betting on them, I want to be betting team totals. And I know that Minnesota is a pretty good defensive team, but this is a spot here off a tough loss. Pittsburgh playing at home here. They get a chance to fight and battle into the playoffs, get that final wild card spot. And the best part about this play here on the team total over 3.5, you're getting a plus price on this one compared to the minus you have to go look at here for the money line. I've seen 130, 135 here, and it's a really kind of confusing price based on the different situations that each team is in their own divisions. But the best look to me in this game for a team like Pittsburgh fighting for their playoff hopes, the team total over 3.5 at plus 115. Even if they lose this game, I still expect at least 4 goals here. I'll take Pittsburgh to get 4 goals here over 3.5 team total.
We love some plus money, Andrew. Andrew McInnis breaking down NHL. Let's head over to the YouTube live comments. Reminder, head over there. Let's take advantage of the handicappers joining us here at Last Call. Get your bets in, your questions in. Head over now. Start typing away. Mel has a question for you, Andrew. Best bet 2-game money line parlay, Stars and Avs. Thoughts on this? Both desperately need wins over inferior opponents as they battle for the central lead, with Minnesota also in action.
I actually do like that one. And I think it actually is the way to go right now with some of these. I'm not someone that always recommends the 2-team chalk parlays, but Colorado, they want to enter, first of all, the playoffs in a good position, and they're still fighting that and battling it out, like the commenter said there. But also, they're off a really tough game against San Jose where they were up 3-1 going into the third period. They allowed 2 goals in the third period and won that game in overtime. Now they have the chance to play the exact same team again. And Megan, this might be a bottom feeder in San Jose they're playing, but I feel like they will be up for the task and want to have a better performance this time than the last time. And the Stars, they are way too strong defensively. I feel like they will outclass their opponent. That is a solid 2-teamer, and that's a really good way of looking at things because, first of all, both teams big favorites. Puck lines aren't hitting as much late in the year. I think it's a rock solid 2-team parlay.
Andrew, let's switch over to another game that you're eyeing tonight. We have Washington Capitals at Montreal Canadiens, 1.5 on the puck line. You can get minus 162 Washington money line, total at 6.5. Puck drop also at 7:05 Eastern for this one. How are we approaching this game out there?
Well, I made some jokes about these teams that are just playing for a paycheck or playing for exercise. That's kind of the deal here with this game. Washington, they're out. Montreal, they've been out for several months now, the playoffs. They're playing for a spot in the team next year. They're playing for, impressing their coaches or scouts for other teams. And these are the games I'm looking for overs. I mentioned I like betting unders right now with 2 playoff bound teams. It's pretty much the opposite with these teams that have no hopes for playing in the postseason. I follow the Montreal Canadiens very closely, and they've got a lot of young guys right now trying to make a name for themselves. They've really been, getting called up from the minor leagues or getting bumped up from the fourth line to the third or third line to the second. Offense has not been their issue. It's been defense. They have been struggling to score. And as far as this Washington Capitals team is concerned, I worry about their defense as well. They've allowed 10 goals in their last 2 games. I don't really see it getting better. I mean, if you were a hockey player and you know you're out of the playoffs, do you want to block shots right now? Do you want to dive in front of a 100-mile-an-hour shot? I wouldn't. I mean, the defense is definitely down for these teams that are not in a playoff spot. And that's why I expect an over here, over 6.5, Montreal and Washington.
Andrew, I like the approach. If teams aren't really playing for anything out there, just exercising, taking over out there just for fun, we'll call it. All right, we have another question in the YouTube live comments. Ghosted says, Boston going tonight. Are we feeling them today? They're going for that regular season points record, if I recall correctly. Boston Bruins at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Bruins are minus 152 on the money line. Any thoughts on this one, Andrew?
So, Megan, I was looking at this game earlier, and here's the deal. Number one, I'm disappointed in myself for not betting on the Bruins enough. I found myself trying to reinvent the wheel this year and finding spots to bet against the Bruins, where casual fans of hockey and casual sports bettors have been making a lot of money just taking this team time and time again, whether it's puck line, regulation, team total. But I know they're trying to reach this record, but I have a feeling this game means a hell of a lot more for Toronto than it does for Boston. I know Boston's been able to kind of still win in any tough situation, whether it's been injuries or load management or tough 3 games and 4 night situations. They're a tough team to go against, but at the plus money, getting some players healthy, getting some guys off that injury reserve, for me, it would be Toronto or pass. I feel like Toronto gets up for this one, and Boston, they might just be ready for the postseason. But like I said, fading this Bruins team has not been a good idea. But I think if you're going to do it, tonight might be a good night for it.
Andrew McInnis breaking down all things NHL. He's also fantastic in MLB, a 10-2 start this season. Go check out Andrew's NHL package up at wagertalk.com. Andrew, we appreciate your time here at Last Call. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have Adam Trigger on to talk some baseball that is going crazy. Not just MLB, we're going to look at some Korean baseball as well. But this is your reminder: head over to the YouTube Live. Ask all the questions that you want. And remember, last week we did a fun segment called Best Bets. So throw in your best bets at the end. We'll read them out. We'll kind of banter back and forth, see what we agree with and disagree with. But you have to have a reason for your best bet. Can't just throw out a random one without backing it up. All right, Adam Trigger, thank you very much for joining us here at Wager Talk's Last Call. You are 56.1% in Korean baseball, and this was through 2021 and 2022. And now you have a $9 4% play up. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Megan, that was my win percentage the last 2 years. The exact unit gain is up on the website. 3-0 to start the new season, so that's been the highlight of baseball season so far for me is the 3-0 start in Korean baseball, and we'll go for 4-0 on Friday morning. And this is just always with the Korean baseball pricing, since it's a niche market. We always sell them for $9, so that's going to be up for $9 tomorrow, and that's pretty much every day with the Korean baseball, with the exception of the 5%. They're always $9.
Adam is going to talk all things baseball. So, any MLB questions you have, any Korean baseball questions, head over to the YouTube Live, get your thoughts in. Let's start with MLB. We have the Dodgers at the Diamondbacks tonight, 10:10 Eastern. Dodgers are heavily favored right now, minus 162. The total's at 9. Dodgers will begin a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks. What are your thoughts out in Arizona?
So, Megan, we only had 6 Major League Baseball games today after the rainouts occurred. So I
Yeah.
didn't get to the window with anything for my clients today. It was just a pass for Major League Baseball for me. But this would have been the closest. So I'll just backtrack a little bit. I really like the Diamondbacks this year. I played their season win total over, talked about it on Wager Talk programming. And on the same token, I still think the Dodgers might be a little bit of a fade. For the first time in a couple of years, their win total was down in the 80s. Not something we've seen of in recent years, with the Dodgers being sort of the mega team in the National League. And I do think that they maybe start to trend back toward the pack this season, even if they do overachieve in that regard and win like 90 games. They're still a more beatable team than they were in the past couple of years, and especially early in the season when they're dealing with a host of injuries. The Dodgers have been banged up since before the season, and now they've got other guys going down. So just from a high level, Dodgers are a team I look to play against. The Diamondbacks, I love their young core. And something I've really noticed early in the season, Megan, the stolen base is not only back, but it's kind of a big deal. We're seeing a lot of stolen base attempts, a lot of stolen bases. The Diamondbacks, 9 for 10 on stolen bases so far this season, tied for third in the league in terms of stolen bases, and then their percentage, obviously one of the best, 90%. And they have some real speed on this team. Corbin Carroll is the fastest person in the major leagues essentially at this point. He's a Diamondbacks rookie. Fastest sprint speed. His combination of speed and power is incredible. I love this kid. I think he's got a great chance to break out as a rookie, potentially win Rookie of the Year in the National League. Jake McCarthy's very fast, and the Diamondbacks, they're going for it. They get on base, they're going, and I love to see that. When as we start to compile data, that the stolen base is starting to matter. So just another reason I do like the Diamondbacks as a play on. The only thing that held me off today, and so just to clarify, I like the Diamondbacks plus 1.5 here, getting the extra run. Think it's like minus 120. That's the way I would have played this game. The pitching matchup is the only thing that keeps me off. And Merrill, I just don't trust Merrill Kelly yet. He faded down the stretch last year. He wasn't great this spring, and his numbers against the Dodgers, Megan, not good. 0-5 with a 7.16 ERA in 6 starts since the beginning of 22 against the Dodgers. So that's obviously very concerning. And then Dustin May, who's going to get the ball for the Dodgers here, his stuff's really good. And he looked awesome in his opener. So as badly as I love the team against team matchup, or as I want to take advantage of the team against team matchup, Diamondbacks undervalued, Dodgers a little overvalued. I love the +1.5 bet that I can get at a good price of -120. The only thing that kept me from making a client play here was just not trusting Merrill Kelly and not really wanting to go against May. But if you force me to bet this game, one of only 2 games on the board in Major League Baseball tonight, I would take my chances that Kelly throws a good game and the Diamondbacks can keep it within 1 run. They played a competitive series with the Dodgers last week, split a series in LA. Now they come home for their home opener. And I think the Diamondbacks most likely hang around. So my lean here and the closest I was to any play in Major League Baseball today would be Diamondbacks +1.5.
And if you like them on the money line, get some plus money at +136. We have a great question, Adam, coming in from Vegas. Trick, I heard Brian Leonard talk about teams playing their aces on interdivision games. Do you fade those teams or do you just play them different than aces on outer division games?
I mean, Brian Leonard's a super sharp guy, so it does not surprise me at all that he made that comment. That is a great way to sort of attack, you know, top pitchers. If you go back and go look at when like the Max Scherzers or the Jacob DeGroms get blown up. I mean, even this, right? Like even this season, DeGrom makes his first start of the season with the Rangers. He faces the Phillies, a team that's seen him a million times. When do those guys get hit? They tend to get hit when when a team has a huge sample size against them. It's also why, the Diamondback or the Dodgers own Merrill Kelly. They've seen him a bunch. They clearly can hit him, and Kelly has not shown the ability to, make an adjustment when he plays those teams. But yeah, typically the top pitchers when they've got when because they're dominant guy, we're talking the dominant pitchers in the game that are going to go out and dominate in most starts. When they get beat is going to be a team that has a nice sample size against them, that's seen them a ton, and that's usually when they have an uncharacteristic start. So I do agree with that. Absolutely, I would. It's not like I want to go out and necessarily fade the best pitchers in baseball, but if I was going to do it and going to try to make a case, I typically try to do it within the division when they have such a nice sample size against that person.
Greg, you're breaking it down fantastic. Lots of love coming in the YouTube live chats. All right, help me out here. Let's switch over to Korean baseball. You're looking at the LG Twins versus the Samsung Lions. I am not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about when it comes to KBO. So let's get your breakdown on this game. The Lions are underdogs here, +142 on the money line. Twins -174. Total at 7.5. Where are we headed in this one?
Yeah, so Megan, there's only 10 teams in Korea, so only 5 games. One of them I have up for sale. It's the $9. It's the 4% play. So of the 4 remaining games that aren't that game, this is where I have my strongest opinion. Now, some of the values gone, like this opened at -160, got bet up to -180. Not my typical style to lay $1.80, but from just a sort of give like what I would make the number, I probably make it closer to like -250 with this team and this matchup. So if that's how you like to bet, okay, -180 is still value when it should be -250 or -260. Then you might have a play on the LG Twins here. LG is the best team in this league this year. I talked about this before the season that I thought that they probably were the top team, and now that we are a week into the season, other teams have been hit by injury. I'm pretty confident that right now LG Twins are my number one team in my power rating, and they are the elite in this league this year. What I love about them is their depth and the fact that outside of their closer, who will probably miss the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season, they really don't have any other injuries yet. And this is a deep team, and that's big in Korea, Megan. They Not all these teams are particularly deep. So once a team starts to get hit by injury, they can really start to slide. And LG has the guys in the bullpen. They've got position players on the bench that arguably could be starting for other teams in the league. So I love that profile. We'll go to a potential injury that could pop up in this game. Jose Perella, a name you might remember from his time with the Yankees and the
Yeah.
Padres. He's over in Korea now, one of the better hitters in the league. He's on the Samsung Lions. He sat out yesterday. He probably plays here, but it is notable that he ran into the wall on a fly ball, I think it was, and he you know ended up sitting yesterday. They will push guys back into action because the Korean teams, they pay big money for what we call the import players, the former major leaguers. They only get 3 on each roster to come over and actually play games. So if he's fine, he's going to play. But who knows? Maybe they hold him out here because he will be up against one of the best right hand pitchers in the league, Casey Kelly, former first round pick of the Boston Red Sox, way back. I think it was like 2008, maybe. He's
Yeah.
been over in Korea for 5 years now, and he's a guy. So he had a terrible start on opening day, and I want to make a comparison. That would be like DeGrom getting hit hard on opening day for his status in the league. He's going into his 5th season in Korea. Career ERA is 2.95. Career WHIP is 1.16. So him getting blown up in a start is like a Scherzer getting blown up in an MLB start. It just doesn't happen that often, and you tend to think that they probably bounce back their next time out. I think he probably bounces back here. He's been so good his entire time in Korea. Like if you go down his start by start game logs his entire time in this league, you rarely will find two starts back to back that aren't good. He was also up against the KT Wiz, who have arguably the best lineup in this league. That's who he faced on opening day. Samsung has a couple good hitters. One of them is Perella. He might not even play. And the rest of their lineup, especially toward the bottom of their order, gets pretty pedestrian. So, one other point I want to make about this game, Samsung's throwing a pitcher that he's only made like 43 appearances in the KBO in his career since 2018, and they haven't been good. 5.64 career ERA, 1.61 whip, which is terrible. Got absolutely crushed in 6 starts last year. So I like to think LG can knock him around a little bit. I expect Casey Kelly to be better. I would have made this more like minus 250. So at minus 175, minus 180, I still think you do have some value on the LG Twins to win their game tonight or in the morning. In the morning, 5 a.m.
In
on
the
the East
morning.
Coast.
Yeah, I think 5:30 a.m. Pacific or Standard
5:30
Time.
a.m. on the
Trig,
East Coast. Yeah.
on the East Coast. Before we let you go, Trig, your one piece of advice when betting on Korean baseball, what should we be looking at?
The injuries is absolutely without a doubt the biggest sort of handicapping tool in Korean baseball. If you can, it's hard info to get, right? Because there's not many American outlets that cover this league. I mean, I have been fortunate enough to make a couple friends that are pretty tuned in this league. I've also translated Korean into English on Google, like just to try to figure out like injury information. But if you can get ahead, so like I'll just give you an example. Jose Perella being out would be the equivalent of like Mike Trout being out in a major league
Yeah.
game. And some of those guys being like missing a game could be a 30 to 40 cent move on the line. The other thing is just kind of keeping tabs on like which teams have the injuries mounting. So like, here's an example, like the KT Wiz right now, even though their big names aren't out, the injuries to their pitching staff are starting to they're just getting hit left and right with pitching injuries. So at some point, that's probably going to catch up with them. And because they're such a highly rated team in the league, you can probably find some value if you're willing to oppose that. And if you know that they have injuries mounting up, and there's another, I think Fangraphs does some, or RotoWire maybe. I think it's RotoWire. I have to it's bookmarked on my computer, but that's the one that has relatively updated Korean baseball injuries. They'll like list them out for you. And if you can keep tabs on who's real banged up, the books typically are not always sharp on that because it's Korean baseball. They've got other sports to deal with. They're not always adjusting the number for the injuries. And in this league, with rosters not being particularly deep, the injuries are so big. So that's what I would say the absolute number one thing you can do to make yourself a profitable bettor in Korean baseball is to keep tabs on the injuries, know who's getting thin in the bullpen, and who's got the key injuries. Bet against those teams, and you'll probably make yourself some money.
Injuries is key. It seems to be the common line in all sports. Adam Trigger, thank you very much for your time at Last Call. He has done fantastic in Korean baseball, 56.1 winning percentage last season, and he's got a 4% $9 play up for Friday, I believe, Korean baseball. Thank you very much, Adam. Have a great Thursday. We'll talk to you next time.
Take care, Megan. Talk to you soon.
And without further ado, we will be bringing Tony Finn on to talk some NBA. We are getting very close to playoff time. Reminder though, Tony Finn can talk all things basketball, baseball. Throw him whatever you want. Any questions you got in, Tony Finn will come on and answer them. Tony, we appreciate you joining us here. All-time MLB profit leader in 2022. And you have something special up at WagerTalk.com, I hear.
Special? Okay, let's it'll be special if it wins. That's the only time it's ever special, right? Dead president report. I do a dead president report, which is just an outtake or an outlier of a game that has the potential to bring big rewards, $100 bills or bigger. If you have any of those laying around, let me see them, please. And and what we do is I have a main leg, obviously, and then I branch out from that leg or a position in a game. And tonight's game I have 7 positions from the late game tonight, which I'll just go ahead and say it is the Arizona and the Dodgers game that's being played down in the Valley of the Sun.
Well, we have plenty to talk about with NBA, but I'm kind of on this MLB thing right now. I'm seeing in the comments we've got some back and forth on this Dodgers game. I don't want you to have to give too much away because you can go and bet this, but real quick thoughts, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, what should we and how should we be approaching this one?
Well, if you have me on the show, then I'm not going to try to, ice over anything or put up smoke screens. It's Dustin May versus Merrill Kelly matchup is significantly favors the Dodgers for several reasons. May, while he came back from a TJS, Tommy John surgery last year, and had 6 starts at the end of the season, the primary goal for him in those starts, sure, the Dodgers want to win, but they had a pretty good lead in the division. They were going to win that division, and they probably were going to be in the playoffs, weren't they? Well, they were. But Merrill Kelly is a guy that's worked around hard contact. He continues to work around hard contact. If you look at his ERA from last year, 3 and mid 3 to really an xFIP that's approaching mid 4. Against the Dodgers, he's been miserable in his career, and Trigg kind of mentioned it, but he was bombarded just last season alone. I mean, 22 runs, 32 hits, and 24 innings of work. That's 5 starts. He struck out 26 of 113 batters he faced, but hard contact, 6 home runs, 40%. In week 1, or the second game was when he faced the Dodgers already, he somehow worked around hard contact. He had 9 balls that were hard contact. 6 of them were above 99 miles an hour exit velocity, and 2 of them were barreled. And for May, it's a guy that's going to reach 100 miles an hour, yada, yada, yada. When it comes to situational baseball, the Dodgers don't really care. They're up there swinging for the fences for the most part. However, Dustin May, in his short career, has dominated the current Arizona bats, where Merrill Kelly has been dominated. So it should give away something about why I like that. But really, of all that information, it doesn't tell you what positions I am. You want to find out what positions I'm on, where I'm at some big plus money positions I think have a really good opportunity. You can get this play only $29, only at WagerTalk. The Dead President's Report tonight, Tony Finn's homepage.
Well, thank you, Tony. I know I put you on the spot there. I told you we were just talking NBA, but I was tempted too much. And it looks like you're agreeing with Ghosted, who's in the comments saying take Dodgers as well tonight. Let's switch over to NBA, though, because it's time to break down some basketball. We're in that final push. Lines are getting sharper and teams are really getting solidified in their appropriate positions. Let's take a peek out west. We've got the Denver Nuggets at the Phoenix Suns. The Nuggets have already claimed that top seed. Suns are looking to get a 7th straight victory. Suns are minus 12, tip off at 10 p.m. Eastern, total at 220 or 222.5. How do we approach this game where there's really not much at stake for the Nuggets?
Yeah. There's no playoff scenario. Okay. Denver's locked into the top seed in the West. Phoenix is locked into the 4th seed. The what is going to happen tonight? I mean, you're going to have no Joker, no Murray. For the most part, the 5 main contributors, first 5 for Denver, if some of them play, it's going to be It's going to be just to get him out there and run around a little bit, because this is going to be basically a second rotation for the Nuggets. What the Suns, this team, you gave the number, Megan. It opened at 7, and
Yeah.
224 is really what the opens were, right? So this happens to be a steam. A lot of this is public steam. Okay, if you believe the Suns are going to play Durant, I got a prop tonight. I like Durant in the first quarter to score more than 6.5 points, because the one thing they are going to work on tonight is keeping Durant in the mix. I don't think they're going to do a lot of defensive schemes where they're going to position Durant to be, hey, this is where you're supposed to be in this situation. This guy's a veteran. However, he needs to get his rhythm back. He needs to know where the players are going to be offensively, whereas where all the other first 5. And listen, this isn't a team with a lot of depth, Megan. They traded away their depth to get Durant. So I wouldn't lay 12 with the Suns,
Right.
and I probably wouldn't touch this game at all. But if I was, I would be playing the under. If you look at what Denver's done, even at full strength, and I know that these the trends I'll give you and some of the things I talk about, we baked into the number, but for the most part, 5 out of the last 6 Nuggets games are coming under, even with the Joker. Without the Joker, almost all of them are coming under. And if when Suns play to the over, um, they're not very successful. Now they're more successful under, and I think 5 of the last 15 games with a total like this, less than 225, have come in under the total when the Suns play at home. So, geez, a lot of points to be laying in a game. It doesn't mean much for either team. So I'll take the under.
Speaking of under, Volbex has a good
Yeah.
question in the YouTube live chat. He says, how do NBA unders do in the start of playoffs? Should I jump on them or does the high scoring continue?
Well, every we always say play to the under or play to the over with these two teams, but for the most part, it all has to do with the number. What was the number that was
Yeah.
posted? So that's a a trick question, should I say? They play the playoffs play a little differently. In fact, there's a completely different animal, Megan. The officiating is a lot more lenient. They let them be a little more physical. You won't see some of the calls you saw in college basketball. If you're late in the second half or in the final seconds of the game where there was some fouls called, you're going to have to make, the NBA guys know they got to clear themselves out, because if you're going to go to the rim, there's a good chance that you're going to get bumped, maybe even they'll call a foul if a guy mugs another guy, but unders are the way to go for the most part, especially early. Unless you hear somebody like myself or Teddy Covers or any of the touts here at WagerTalk are talking about, well, they've already adjusted and these numbers might be over adjusted to the under. But a lot of it has to do with possessions. It all has to do with possessions, quality shots, etc., that make totals. At least for me, and then I compare them to what the books have posted. So, tough question, but yeah, I've always leaned to a more physical, a slower paced, and every single second, every single possession being a little more competitive and a little more important when it comes to the NBA title bracket.
Tony, let's switch over to a smaller market game
Sure.
out there on the slate tonight. We have Oklahoma City Thunder at Utah Jazz. Thunder minus 6.5, tip off 9:10 Eastern, total at 239.5. This is a must win game for Oklahoma City. Dallas has made it a little bit more challenging for the Thunder. Thunder now 10th seed in the West. How are you approaching this one out in Utah?
Well, there's a small playoff scenario in this matchup, Megan.
Yeah.
That's Oklahoma City's magic number to clinch that 10th seed or that play-in seed is 2. They're going to win tonight. I mean, unless they completely melt down, you got no Jordan Clarkson, no Rudy Gay, no Walker Kessler, no Marky Mark, no Colin Sexton, and those are pretty big contributors when it comes to game night, at least game's end, whether they're winning or losing. Now, um, there's some things to look at here. I like Oklahoma City. This number also is steamed. This is a game that opened up 5.5, although it hasn't quite steamed like the Phoenix game has. It's still leaning towards Oklahoma City for good reason. Or for good reason. Utah has played they've showed their hand. They're not playing to win this game. I'm not saying that the players aren't, but they're not going to manage this game to win this game. And I think that the Thunder are a good spot. In fact, I think the Thunder, if you look at Gil Alexander's scoring prop tonight, Megan, you'll find 32.5, which I find is a pretty big number. If the Thunder get a lead tonight and they hold a double-digit lead at the end of the third quarter, I don't think you're going to see much of Gill. I don't think you will. And 32.5 is a pretty big number to score in three quarters for anybody, whether it be Durant or whether it be Gill Alexander. So I really like that under 32.5 tonight with SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder, because I believe that they'll cover this number tonight, and I believe they could have a double-digit lead throughout the second half, and which means the starters will probably see some fine time.
Tony, as we start to get into playoffs with the NBA, any approach when betting in the postseason? Any teams that you're going to lean more heavily on?
No, they won't. There'll be some teams. First and foremost, the NBA is kind of a funny animal. You don't see a whole lot of 8 seeds. Even when once they go through the play-in scenario, we're going to have 8 teams from each conference. They're going to be fighting it out for what is an NBA title. And NBA titles are a big deal, these guys. They really are. But for the most part, you don't see 8 seeds winning NBA titles. This is not like you're going to see San Diego State. And nothing personal against San Diego State. It's a good team. But what were they, a 9 seed? I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly what they were. And they're in the title game, right? That's something you just don't see. 8 seeds in the NBA title game. You don't see it. The better teams, give you an example. It's Philadelphia. Big question night in that game. And it relates a little bit to your question. That is a guy I covered in college and understand him to be a pretty transparent guy. And that's Joel Embiid. And look what he did last game. There's no reason for Philadelphia playing Joel Embiid. I mean, they're locked in what they are. That whole eastern side is already locked in pretty much. It's the western side we're looking at as far as possible playoff scenarios. But Embiid scores 51. He wants desperately. He wants this MVP award. So Philadelphia's a small favorite over Miami team that has to win, right? I trust Philadelphia. I certainly don't trust the way this Magic defense played out. And if you're looking for lower seeds or you're looking for something to look at when you get into the playoffs, first and foremost, you're going to find competitive games, the 4 and 5, and the Bucks want to make these 1 versus 8 seeds competitive. They do it with a handicap, right? However, I like 8 seeds, I like 7 seeds in the playoffs, but I like them with a big handicap, not necessarily to win, because these games are played closer to the vest. They're flowed down, and you don't see double-digit margins a lot of times in the playoffs outside 1 and 8, and even in those games, for the most part, you should probably be on the dog.
Tony Finn, thank you for breaking down all of your knowledge with the NBA. You mentioned futures with MVP. I can't help it, but want to get some value on Jokic, who's now plus 1,200 doing MVP. I understand
Right.
everyone's on Embiid minus 1,000. Real quick before I let you go, am I crazy for taking that bet?
Have you already got it?
No.
Or are you thinking about taking it right now? I wouldn't take it right now. Here's the deal with that. Embiid is played into that minus 1,000, and Jokic's already won it a couple times, right? Will this be his 3rd in a row? Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
We don't hype it up a little bit. Plus 1,200.
I know. But writers are human, and it's like they just don't. Back to back's tough. 3 in a row with a guy like Embiid, who's really had a great year and stayed healthy. Tough for me to put 1,200. I might have just booked that for you. How much you want to put on? I'll just book
Right, exactly. Tony
it.
Finn, we
Yeah.
appreciate having you here at WagerTalk's Last Call, the all-time MLB profit leader in 2022. Make sure you go give him a peek at wagertalk.com. Lots of free bets from Tony today. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time, Tony.
Thanks.
And that'll wrap up today's episode of Last Call here at Wager Talk TV. We saw a couple best bets in the comment section. Ghosted had a parlay. I think it was Jazz and another team up there. We can pull it up. I'll have my producer look at it. But I'm not going to roll with any parlays in NBA. Let's see how this breaks down. Appreciate all of you joining here at Wager Talk's Last Call. We'll catch you here Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. See you next time at Last Call.